Good day to all of you. This is a demonstration, a visual demonstration of the monitoring and evaluation capability that we as Altron Karabina have built out. Monitoring and evaluation as a concept can take on multiple guises. That consideration has gone into building of the solution. The underlying platform is adaptable for different scenarios of monitoring and evaluation. At a conceptual level, we use the theory of change methodology within our monitoring and evaluation. The app that I'm going to be taking you through firstly to show you the first version thereof is one that could talk to a national department who have a number of programs, or in this case, what we call prescripts, that they require from sister departments, provincial departments, that they need to comply with. The solution itself starts out with me looking at my dashboard in this case, and my dashboard is a Power BI dashboard. There's multiple different dashboards that I'm able to present within the application, and these are really just visual views of the underlying information that exists within the system. We are able to incorporate, for argument's sake, information that comes from an external system and provide you with a visual reference of that information as well. Here, for example, we have a concept of what we talk about delivery frameworks. This really is just telling me of the different initiatives, programs, interventions that we have as a department. Where are we with regards to those? So here, for example, if I look at the legend, I can see one being actioned. That's a project, that's a program, and those that don't have any notation are also highlighted to me. But you see, as I hover over these, it is an interactive dashboard, so the dashboard displays related information. This is just a very rough example of what dashboarding can do for you. As an individual, I've got a default homepage. In this case, my default homepage is defined as my dashboard. It simplifies navigation within the system, so I can define a custom area to start out my day's activities within the system. Notification: with every business process that we engage in, there typically are activities that are performed. It's either meetings that are scheduled, calls that are made, emails that are sent, tasks that are created either for myself or created and assigned to other departments. This notification area just gives me a consolidated place to come to and see all those notifications in a single place. These, I must emphasize, are able to be created within the various functional areas. This view that you're seeing here is just a consolidated view of all activities that exist within either the system. As you'll notice, I've changed the filter and it's showing me all activities, or alternatively, we're able to create a personal view where it's just showing me my activities that I've got or I am responsible for. So we have that ability. Moving down to the first example. So in this case, as I said, this is a national department. They are mandated with indicating to department specific prescripts that need to be met. In this case, those prescripts talk to IT specifically. They have regular assessment periods. So in other words, they want to monitor and evaluate how well individual departments are executing on their IT strategy. And that is done through this assessment record that you see over there. So if I click on an assessment, for example, one for 2021, within this assessment record, there's a couple of things I want to call out. The first is this assessment process. So this provides a guided process to the department or to the person engaging with the system that needs to input information as to how that needs to happen. So for example, information gathering is my first phase. Within that, I can indicate that for my CGICT progress, it's completed. My CGICT continuity progress is also completed. I've got a number of statuses that could, for example, be applied to this. And in this case, it could be in progress, it could be completed, or it could be not yet captured, as an example of where we are with regards to information gathering. And this information in turn feeds in to the overall completeness of the plan or the assessment that we are talking to. The next stage is the submission stage. Has it been submitted? We say yes or no. That is typically a yes or no field. And what is the outcome? Has it been approved? Are there any comments? And what is the prescript store? You'll notice this is grayed out. It is an auto-calculated field that could impart that the system is able to auto-calculate based on the inputs of these individual scores we have down the bottom there. So we are beginning to provide guidelines on a program, that initiative that we have, the prescripts as we call them in this case. People are able to capture records relating to those. So we've gone through the business process. I can see the cycle period. The cycle name is 2021 assessment period. The dates from and to I've got in this example, and then the actual prescript. So the CGICT plan for 2021, you'll see the status is completed and it's got a score of 3. If I click on that record and go into that record, there's some additional detail that is within that record that makes up that score. So here, for example, I can see the guidelines, I can see the main assessment period, some notations here around how this has got to be completed, and then also detailed guidelines can be found at this particular location, which is a link to a SharePoint site where I could have a document that outlines what and how this needs to be captured. A couple of things I captured. We talk about completion tracking has section 1. We identify all the sections that have been completed and indicate completeness, yes or no, in this example. We upload a copy of the actual plan where an artifact or a document or documents exist. We have the ability to upload and include those on the record. The outcome score, there's the assessment score that is given for this particular plan. The next tab, I've got stakeholder analysis. Who are the individual stakeholders? What business initiatives are in place? Any existing ICT business initiatives, and so on and so forth. But this really talks to a very specific process of how we're able to capture these prescripts. And here, for example, you see it's the ICT prescript. We've got a financial assessment, we've got an innovation assessment, and a custom assessment. And each one of these is able to capture individual areas against which we are able to score that. We then take the score and we calculate the score, and we give you a prescript score outcome, which is made up of all those scores and the average thereof, which says that that would indicate acceptable, unacceptable, pass or failure within that. And how do we get that view? Power BI is the reporting mechanism that we've included with this. And if I click on this Power BI report, and as this report renders, you'll begin to see some visualization of those prescripts that we have defined. And you'll notice that in the view that I've got, it is broken up provincially. In this case, within the record information that we have provided provincial information. So we're able to see that at a provincial level, the Eastern Cape on their prescripts have scored 3.5 for prescripts, for innovation, for financial, and for customer. If I'm wanting to draw into that, I'm able to then further draw down into that and then start looking at that at an individual department level. Where economic services and infrastructure are actually green on all their metrics. However, the province and a whole is showing up as yellow or an amber color. I'm able to then drill into to get the answers to those particular questions. And I can even see that Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, for example, have scored particularly badly. I'm able to drill into that and then go into this information and begin to understand the rationale behind why the scores are the way they are. So information captured within the monitoring and evaluation. Here, I'm then able to look at that report and then, as I said, go in and drill down into that information. Really simple example, very quick example that I've given you of one version of monitoring and evaluation. I quickly want to move over to a different version of this monitoring and evaluation that we have. I spoke about the fact that monitoring and evaluation has got a number of different flavors that could be implemented thereof. Different people implement it differently. And the underlying data model allows us to be able to cater for the differences in approach with regards to monitoring and evaluation. And I just want to get to the correct monitoring and evaluation app. If you just bear with me for a minute. Yet again, this year is a very different view of monitoring and evaluation that you'll see. And you'll notice the dashboard that comes up is exactly the same capabilities within the dashboard that I've taken you through earlier. I've got a list of priorities. Now, priorities, different naming conventions for different things. Priorities is what provinces refer to the nationally mandated priorities that they have within the individual departments. So in other words, at a provincial level, we have a priority that aligns to a national priority to improve educational outcome for foundation phase learners, for argument's sake, is an example of a priority. And each priority has got an associated priority record that goes with it. And within this record, we capture the details around that particular priority and oftentimes referred to as an objective. So here you'll see that we've defined our objective, also frequently referred to as a priority. We specify the type of objective, who are the stakeholders, who is the stakeholder or stakeholders. Now, this could be a government department, it could be social partners that you work with, but we're able to indicate who the stakeholders are that are involved or need to be involved with this particular intervention that we as a province, department, entity, organization are embarking on, and some additional information. In this example, I've got a parent objective, and that's the global objective for 2019, which is an SDG, one of the Sustainable Development Goals, for argument's sake, that I'm able to align my priorities to. Be able to capture things like progress indicators, baseline values, start and end dates, whether they're primary or secondary objectives and the priority for these objectives, detailed description of the objective we're able to capture within that text box that you see over there. The next tab has got some assumptions. We make some assumptions up front. Assumption is, for example, that we will have sufficient budget, that the resource allocation will be made, that we'll have the necessary input expenditure that is required to execute on this particular objective. So those assumptions are captured there. Any identified risks, typically with all projects and implementations or interventions, we have risks. Those are captured over there. And then the timeline of activity is an important place because that serves as a chronology of activities as they unfold. If you remember me talking about activities in the previous section, this is where those activities would be displayed and captured. And we also have the ability, by clicking on that plus sign, to preempt these activities: an appointment, an email, a phone call, a task. So all of the things that we traditionally do as part of our day-to-day activities are catered for within the system. I mean, nothing is complete without a budget. So budgets are a key element of how we execute against that. We have the ability to define the budgets. We are able to link that budget to the particular priority that it is intended for. We're also able to indicate how much of that budget. So in other words, things like what is the objective or the priority this is related to, the name of the budget, the particular department this relates to, the currency, should we use multi-currency, the specific financial period this relates to, who's the provider organization. I spoke about those stakeholders, the recipient country, in this case is South Africa, the province, and that could be broken down to region, to even ward level if needed, if need be. The budget owner, the budget approver. So we've got a full set of information around this budget within the budget record, including the total budget committed for this, total budget provided for this product, how much has been committed and what the remaining budget is, the recipient organization and the recipient country. Now, we receive this budget, we routinely make disbursements against this budget, and this disbursement could require some proof of execution for this disbursement, but the disbursement and allocation of funds is contained within the budget element, where we are able to capture these disbursements that are made and the related evidence that goes with it. And where there is a social partner that is applying to be part of the initiative or intervention that we're embarking on, might be an application process where people need to be awarded. We're able to manage awards in this as well. So we're able to say, for program X, social partner 1, 2, and 3 have applied. Social partner 1 and 2 have been awarded. Here is the proof of award. Against this award, we will make a disbursement, because the award might be specific to a specific program or a specific amount. Be able to capture that within the awards entity, and in so doing ensure that funds are directed to the correct or intended purposes. All of this is done to ultimately improve the lives of our citizens and the most vulnerable in our country. This is executed in a number of ways. There's typically a needs assessment done. Out of that needs assessment, we've identified particular priorities that we would like to embark on. We've made funding available. Those are delivered in the form of programs, of projects, or interventions. And this is the area in which we articulate the detail on what it is the program entails. And here's some examples of this. Here, for example, you can see I've got a number of different types of programs, and I want to take you to one program, which is a provincial program, program 2, which is HIV and AIDS, and we could have a program with sub-programs as well. In this case, program 2 is a special needs program. Within program 2, we have one of the sub-programs being the HIV and AIDS program. And here we're able to define at a general program level what type it is it a deliverable assumption, due dates for it, the obligation type. We're able to specify a number of different pieces of information, including things like the program items. So what are the different things that are going to be done? And I spoke about those sub things, the related objectives for each one of those, the related budgets, delivery frameworks. As you remember earlier on, we were creating all these records. All we're doing at the program level is associating all these records to the particular program that they belong to. And at the end of that, we are going to do the piece about monitoring and evaluation. That really is to determine how it is that we determine success in the form of indicators, and how do we measure that success in the form of indicator values. And that all comes back to a result. And the results are either an outcome or an output or an outcome, and could even be an impact type result that we receive at the end of the day. And then the next area is the monitoring and evaluation piece. So this is my program record where the actual things that we're going to be doing is contained in. Within the monitoring and evaluation space, I have that theory of change. I've got my indicators. And these are example of indicators. So for example, where I've got a program where it is the improvement of early childhood development, for argument's sake, number of trainings might be an important measure or metric for us. And in this case, if I go into the indicator for the number of trainings delivered, I can see it's ascending. Aggregation, yes, we aggregate that, the start and the end date for that, a description for that particular measurement that we are instituting. And then we also have the ability to, for international reporting purposes, to align that to the specific ERT codes. And oftentimes where international donors provide funding, they require that our reporting meets the ERT reporting standards, and here we are able to align those to the ERT standards. So if I follow through on this, so this, for example, this is an indicator. We know the program that we're measuring. If I move across to the values, the values is where we capture the actual details. So here, for example, if I follow through on the previous example of number of trainings, I can see within January the number of trainings that were delivered. So I can see the value type I'm capturing is an actual. It could be a baseline or a target value that I'm inputting into the actual system. The value type I can see is actual. Is it an amount, namely, is it a numeric value, a currency value? Is it a percentage, or is it a number? In this case, it is a number. The number is for the period 1/1/2019 to 31/2019. We can see the year there being indicated, and I can see there's my parent indicator, which is the number of trainings that this belongs to. As we go through the year, we'll keep capturing these values and aligning them to, and that would indicate at the indicator level whether we are moving forward, sideways, or not moving backward with regards to results and delivery, and then a description thereof. And then lastly, evidence. It's not unusual for us to require proof of execution and for people to have to upload evidence. Here we have the ability to upload evidence in the form of a file or even image evidence, should that be required, and we can add one or multiple pieces of evidence to that. And then lastly, that is brought together in our results framework, where we're able to go into our results entity and pull all that information together, indicate that's a program that this result is for. What type of result is it? Is it an output? Is it an outcome? Is it an impact, or is it other? We're able to indicate what kind of result. In this case, we're saying it's an output result, and we're able to capture that information as it relates to that. There's a lot more to the monitoring and evaluation app, but I think at a very high level, that covers some of the key components that typically would go into a monitoring and evaluation type application. Yet again, just to say they're very customizable to meet particular needs. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention.